Hello, everybody. Today I will be presenting on The Trials of Gabriel Fernandez, a docuseries on Netflix. So, who was Gabriel Fernandez? He was an 8-year-old boy from Palmdale, California, a prominently Hispanic community. His tragic death became a big discussion point in child abuse, neglect, and the failures of social services. And he was severely abused and tortured by his mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, Isauro Aguirre. So this series explores how severe of abuse that this little boy had to endure, and how this led to his tragic death, as well as how CPS and investigators completely failed to intervene in this little boy's life. I do want to add that when he was growing up, before he moved in with his mother, Pearl Fernandez, and her boyfriend, for a brief moment in his life, when he was very little, he lived with his uncle and his uncle's boyfriend. So this might be a key factor as to why Isauro Aguirre felt the need to abuse this 8-year-old boy. So most of the evidence that was found on this little boy's body was completely horrifying. Some of the investigators and the people who were interviewed, such as nurses and doctors for this documentary series, have stated that the body of this little boy was severely beaten, burned. He had scars everywhere. He was severely underweight. You could tell that he had psychological torture due to the evidence that was presented on the prosecution of Isauro Aguirre, as well as the little boy's mom, Pearl. He also had a fractured skull, broken ribs, and this little boy is just completely malnourished for being 8 years old. I do want to add this biblical call to moral behavior. It just is to show that as Christians we should do whatever it takes to interfere and intervene in these types of cases, as this little boy is considered to be a little one in the verse of Matthew 18, verse 6, as well as he is a weak being, and he's fatherless. He literally had no father in his life, and he couldn't do anything. What can you do at 8 years old when mommy and mommy's boyfriend are beating on you, and you love your mom because that's your mom, right? But she's doing all these horrible things to you. Like I said, they reflect a biblical call to protect children and care for those who have no voice. So, like I said earlier, this case reflects so many failures of CPS and DCFS, as they failed to protect him, despite the many calls that brought CPS to their house and visits from the social worker. The LA District Attorney did take measures to hold the social workers accountable, although they completely messed up, and this series will show how funding and the bureaucratic inefficiency was a big contributor to the tragic taking of this little boy's life. And you'll later see that Gabriel's Law was a direct result of the failures in this case, and it created the State Child Death Review Council. So some of the child and legal consequence information that happened within this case is that Pearl and Isauro Aguirre were both arrested, taken into custody, charged with first-degree murder, torture, and child abuse. Aguirre is now facing a life sentence, and Pearl Fernandez is facing life in prison without parole. So some of the defense strategies that her team used was that her behavior was influenced by her boyfriend Isaro Aguirre, who they said was a big influence as to why she did what she did, as he felt jealous from the child. He didn't want Pearl to give her attention and love to the child as he wanted it for himself. He also would make claims that the little boy was gay, and he just decided to beat him due to those accusations. Some of the defense strategies that his team used is that he suffered from mental illness and personality disorder. And as a result of that disorder, led to him beating on this child. He was still found guilty, however, of course. So this case did have some impacts on the child welfare system, as it led to an emphasis on better interagency communication between the criminal justice system as well as DCFS and CPS in order to prevent these types of cases from happening again. Like I said, this case just serves as an extreme reminder of what can happen when intervention and fighting for a child is not taken seriously. If there is signs of abuse, the State Child Death Review Council makes sure that these sheets called make sure that the documentation that is provided on this case is taken seriously and not just flipped through like a picture book, but really studied so that this type of stuff doesn't happen ever again. These are my sources. Thank you for your patience, and I hope you enjoyed. Thank you once again.